I'm Jo. Welcome back to my stitchy spot. In the last video we looked at the basic tools and stitches you need to get started. Today we're going to look at how to turn this into this. So the first thing I'm going to show you today is how the chart relates to the fabric. Now, as you can see, the chart is on a grid, and if you remember from the last video, the fabric is in squares. So one square on the grid is one square on the fabric. So let's have a look at the chart itself. Now, in this chart we have 3 symbols. Each symbol refers to a colour. Now, how do we know what colour each symbol refers to? Well, we have a key. So in this case we're using DMC threads. I have had to change that colour slightly because I couldn't find the one I'd originally put in, but that's okay. Another thing you may have noticed about this chart is these little arrows at the top and on the side. These are the centre lines, and they help us to find the centre point of the design. I'm just going to mark that with a highlighter. Find the centre, we fold it in half twice. Now this is actually really easy to do with Ada because it has squares. So fold it in half in one direction, crease along that centre point. I actually think and then you fold in half the other direction, crease. Now you have a double crease at the centre point. I'm going to mark it with a highlighter. We normally wouldn't do that, mark it with thread. Okay, time to do some stitching. So the first colour we're going to do is the centre colour, the blobby cross, which is DMC 605. So that's this pretty pale pink. Now we're going to need about an 18-inch length. You don't want it too long because it's likely to knot. So an 18-inch length is a good length. Stranded cotton embroidery floss comes in 6 strands. Okay. We're going to use 2. The easiest way to do this without knotting, hold the full bundle between your thumb and forefinger, find one strand and pull it gently and lay it down. Unravel and find your next strand, unravel, and done. Now recombine these 2 strands. The reason we pull one at a time is partly to prevent it knotting, but also when you recombine them it means that the thread lays flatter when you're doing your stitches. Okay, so let's start stitching. A couple of things we need to do first. We need to figure out where we're going to start. So we're not going to start on the actual centre because that leaves a whole lot of shape to do. We're going to actually start here, the top left part of that central motif. So we need to count. It's 1, 2, 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3 up. So same count on the fabric. 1, 2, 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3 up. And that's our starting point. Okay. Now, how do we actually start the thread? We need to make sure that the thread is secure and it's not going to come undone. There are a number of ways of doing this. This is probably the easiest way for new stitchers. I do use a variation of this just without the knot. So this is known as the waist knot, and you'll see why shortly. So we find our starting spot. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we take our needle down about 5 or 6 stitches to the right and 1 up. Okay. Now, if you think the holes in the fabric at that point are a little bit big, there's a reason for that. I'd already stitched all this before I realised it wasn't recording, so I had to undo it all. Yeah, these things happen. So we're now at our starting point. You bring the thread to the front, and now you can start stitching. So we're doing this row. So you've got 2 stitches in the colour we're doing, a gap of 2, because we'll do that colour later, and then 2 stitches. So we have done 1 leg of our first stitch. We're working across this row, 2 on, 2 off, 2 on. But now I've reached that knot, and this is why it's called a waist knot, because you cut it off. Get rid of that. Now the tail at the back is well secured, so you just keep stitching. Okay, so that's our first row done. Our second row, go down 1 and to the left 1. So this row is 8 across, so we're going to do 8 in that direction and 8 back. So that's our second row complete. Third row starts immediately underneath the second, so bring our needle up there, and that's where I'm going to leave you for now. So I'm going to go away, finish this heart shape off camera. As you can see, it goes in on both sides. So I'm going to finish this and then come back and I'll show you how to add a second colour and how not to add a second colour. Okay, so as you can see, I've finished the small pink heart. I've not finished with the thread though, because I want to show you how we securely finish the thread. So on the back, you can see that the stitches are basically form vertical lines. So we weave the thread through those stitches to secure it. So what we do, just weave the needle and the thread under the existing stitches. Try to avoid going under the fabric, but really it's not that much of an issue if you do. So just gone under 3. I'm going to go back in the other direction. That just makes things a little bit more secure if there's a bend. Okay, and then we can stitch, cut that off, and that thread is nice and secure. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the second colour. which is the circle with a dot. That is DMC 604. So I'm going to show you how to start without a knot. So we're going to start at this square here. So it's one to the left and one up from the top of the paler pink. One to the left and one up. So one here, one to the left and one up. Now, it's not a lot of counting. We can remember that. So we don't need to make the hole bigger. So we're going to start our thread over here. Be careful not to pull it all the way through. A needle up where we want it. Now, to be extra safe, you can just hold the thread down with your finger and do your first stitch. Check the back, make sure it's going over. There you go. Mistakes happen to the best of us. Just start again. So that's the hole we want. Just one down. So that has now caught the thread. It's going to be very difficult for that to pull out. Let's do a couple more. So that's all nice and secure now. And you can just snip it off, the same as with the knot. Right, I'm going to do the next couple of rows and then I'll come back to you when we get to this point. Okay, so on to the next row. This is the row we've just done, and it's again one down, one to the left. Now we've got a problem coming ahead. We have a decision to make. Now, we've come to a long row of the paler pink. So, do we go all the way across, carry that thread across the back, like that? Now, we can. That's a perfectly legitimate choice. But you've left them with a long thread which is quite easy to catch and pull, so then that would pull your stitches. So what I'm actually going to do is just work on this side first and then come back and work on that side after I've got down to the bottom. So I will finish this colour, I'll do both sides. And then I'll come back to you. So here's our little heart with the second shade finished. I think it looks quite pretty. But I do have a confession to make. So as you saw, I was working down this side and then going to work down this side. And that's what I did. But when I got to the bottom, I had a lot of thread left. So I carried it. I carried it from here up to here. I wove it into the stitches that were already there. And when we do the back stitch, that will be covered, so the thread is not going to snag. The other consideration, and for me, is probably a little bit more important, I decided to carry because it would use less thread than ending the thread and starting again. So that's the second shade of pink finished on our little heart. I think it looks quite pretty. So now you know how to read a chart and translate it to fabric. From here on, it's just variations. In the next video, we'll look at ways to smooth out the edges and add some details.